After a campaign that set new spending records, the voters have had their say in 2010. CPF spoke to a couple of independent experts to try to get a sense of what the results mean for California. California voters didn't share the anger seen in other states, but that doesn't mean they're happy with the way things are.
If you look at the measures related to government and the budget, you could make an argument that a lot of those measures were a punishment of legislators. People are just frustrated. They're just down. They're gloomy. And I think that's slightly different than being angry.
Voters want politicians to get on with it and solve some problems and put aside all this partisan bickering and work together to create some solutions. If voters are trying to send a message here and elsewhere, it's deal with this and do your job.
In local elections, voters passed a wave of local pension rollbacks, spurred on by the state's economic troubles.
I think there have been these horror stories in places that have finally kind of piqued their curiosity about this issue.
There's, I think, a general feeling in the country that everyone is not sharing equally in the fiscal problems that we have. And if voters have an opportunity to sort of level the playing field, like pension reform in a given locality, they're going to take that opportunity.
Governor-elect Brown and the legislature, they're going to have to work on this issue, and they're going to have to do more work on pension reform, I think, because otherwise you're going to get a ballot measure from someone on the other side that's going to push this issue much further.
The first order of business for the new governor and legislature is tackling a $25 billion state deficit. Voters in 2010 didn't help matters. While they made it easier to pass a budget, they made it harder to make it balance.
We've seen this in so many polls in the last few years, this incredible conflicting nature of what the voters keep telling us. You know, they don't want to raise taxes, they want to cut spending, but they don't want to cut schools, they don't want to cut health and human services.
This $20 billion deficit is structural, and it's going to continue ad infinitum into the future. You're not going to solve that unless you have a very honest discussion about what you want the state to do, what your priorities are.
The man who will lead that conversation is Governor-elect Jerry Brown. Brown has decades of experience, but also has shown that he's not afraid to take risks.
The one thing you can say about Jerry Brown historically throughout his political career is his inventiveness. He is full of ideas, and he is full of ideas that are now informed by some 45 years in public service.
You know, the biggest criticism we know that he was when he was governor is he was never here. He was somewhere else. He was running for president. He wasn't really, dialed in to really how government works. And this seems to be a different Brown, at least in that sense.
From bad to worse, that's the message.
Even before taking office, Brown has issued stern warnings about the state's budget deficit. It's the kind of tough medicine that the experts say will be needed to rescue California from its fiscal crisis.
Budgets are not about dollars, they're about choices. So you have to have an honest discussion about what those choices are, and you have to then decide how much you're willing to spend.
There's guarded optimism for incremental progress in the new year, but it's very incremental. And even if you look at the polls, the public doesn't expect tremendous progress in 2011. I think Brown's got a tremendously tough job ahead of him.
Keep track of what's happening in Sacramento and how it affects California's firefighters by clicking the legislative news section at www.cpf.org.